So we're really stuck with a good faith offering from the district attorney that is going to be fully presented.
Kenneth Chamberlain, Jr., tell us about your dad, Kenneth Chamberlain, Sr.
When people ask me about that, I tell people he was a father like anyone else. I mean, he agreed with some things that you did, and he disagreed with others. But my father would never hurt anyone intentionally. He wouldn't go after anyone. I mean, he was law enforcement himself. He was a Marine. I'm sure whatever he's seen when he served, that was enough violence for him. And for them to look at my father that way, without, I mean, no regard for his life. Every morning I think about it, just the circumstances, because I guess maybe around 5 o'clock in the morning, I tend to think about all of this. And it disturbs me about the fact that it hasn't been presented yet, because I do know, as my attorney said, that if the roles had been reversed, this would already be in the grand jury.
When did you hear your father had been killed?
I found out from a friend of mine that Saturday morning. I was up and my phone rang, and a friend of mine called me, and he said, who also lives in the building, he said, you need to get out to White Plains right away. And I asked him why. He said, something is going on with your father. I don't know what it is. And I asked him, I said, well, what's going on? And as he was getting ready to tell me, he just yelled out, oh my God. And I asked him what happened.
I'm really sorry to put you through this again, to make you relive it.
I apologize.
You're holding your father's ID card as well.
Yes. I have his Marine ring and his veteran's card. My father was
We're talking to Kenneth Chamberlain, Jr., the son of Kenneth Chamberlain, Sr., who was killed by police on November 19th, 2011, in his home. His medical alert pendant went off, and the company called the police to check on him.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ken, it's fine.
Yes, I have his Marine ring, his veteran's card. He was proud to be a Marine, and even on the audio, you hear the police officers making fun of the fact that he was a Marine. And
what do you mean?
They asked my father to open the door. He refused. He said, I'm not opening my door. They said something to the effect that they were going to knock it down. He said, I won't let you in, and he said, simplify. So they said, oh, you're a Marine. Hoorah. Hoorah. And this is somebody that served this country. Why would you even say that to him? And my father always said, once a Marine, always a Marine. If he was ever in trouble and couldn't get help from anybody else, to call on a Marine. And a lot of those things come back now, where things that I thought went in one ear and right out the other. But in light of these things, when you hear the audio, when you look at the video, all of these things come back. And in 45 years of me being on this earth, that was the very first time that I ever heard my father where he was pleading and begging for his life. Someone who I looked at as being extremely strong, to hear him beg for his life, to say that this was his sworn testimony on the audio, which the police did not know that was being recorded. He said, "My name is Kenneth Chamberlain, this is my sworn testimony. White Plains police are going to come in here and kill me."
Well, and the amazing thing about this is that they were supposed to come there to assist him.
Yes.
That there was no indication of any kind of a crime,
Exactly.
and that he would have depended on them for help, and instead this happens.
I think it's important, you know, we're lawyers, this is what we do, but I think it's important to always remember and look at this case, not as a case, but as a human being who lost his life over a needless situation, and look at the impact that this kind of senseless killing has on his family. This man lost his father. He gets a call at 5 a.m. My father is having a difficult. Why didn't they call him? He could have been there in 5 minutes. I mean, the lack of professionalism in this department is shocking. The fact that no public official in the city of White Plains has come and said to this man, "I'm sorry over the loss of your father." I mean, Mayor Bloomberg has done that in New York. Whether I agree with everything he's done, at least he has the decency to do that. No one has reached out to this man at all. So we are prepared to take this case to the fullest extent. We filed a notice of claim on behalf of the family, and we're waiting a little time to give the DA a chance to do what she has to do. But if they don't do the right thing in White Plains, we're coming to Manhattan to seek justice in the Department of Justice with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Randy, if I can just follow on what you're saying also, it's interesting that the very first coverage of this comes from the White Plains Police Department, and the White Plains Police Department neglects to mention that they were there for a medical emergency. They don't state that. They lead you to believe that they were there to deal with a person who was out of control, who was a threat to the community, who was somehow out there and required their assistance. And I remember watching it as it occurred, and I'm sitting down with my friend and his sons, who are in high school. And it had a picture of the White Plains police car and a target on the police vehicle, as if the police had been targeted. And there was a statement immediately made that it was a justified shooting. And that statement had to have been made before they were aware that there was audio, and that perhaps some of the video contradicts that. And it's very similar to Mr. Zimmerman suggesting that he had a bloody nose, and now you look at the video and it doesn't appear to be the case. And that really makes you question what we're being told sometimes by government with respect to these types of matters. And to any degree that Mr. Chamberlain was emotional, it was because he was taunted. They created this situation. They escalated a situation. And police are trained. They're trained to deal with people who are emotionally disturbed. They're not trained to kill those individuals. And certainly not an individual 68 years old when you have a ballistic shield and a dozen officers and firefighters that are present who could have simply gone in. But there was a suggestion that Mr. Chamberlain had left his home and that the officers were retreating. That never occurred. The minute they got into the house, they didn't even give him one command. They never mentioned, put your hand up. They never told him to lay down on the bed. They never did any of that. The first thing they did, as soon as that door was finally broken off the hinges, you could see the taser light up, and it was charged, and you could see it going directly toward him. Now, that was 100% unnecessary. And when you see that video, which I wish was public, because I think that the grand jury is used as a shield, and it shouldn't be. It's a shield for people who have committed crimes, and generally a shield for law enforcement. Because, again, these same videos are made public, very public, when they involve civilians who are charged. And I think that the shielding provision of the grand jury, the secrecy provision, is to prevent people from being threatened by organized crime figures, not to protect you from your own police department.
I want to thank you all for being with us, and end on a final question to Kenneth Chamberlain, Jr. When you heard of the killing of Trayvon Martin, your thoughts as you are going through what you're going. They're saying they, too, in Florida, will be convening a grand jury, apparently at about the same time as the grand jury will be convened in the case of the death of your father that occurred months earlier.
My heart definitely goes out to that family, because I know exactly what it is that they're feeling right now. And it took me a while before I actually listened to the Release 911 tapes of that day with that young man. And when I finally got up the nerve to listen to it, to hear him in the background yelling for help, and I think it was about maybe 3 times, and then you hear a gunshot, and you don't hear him anymore, it brought tears to my eyes immediately. And of course, it also made me think about my own father, because I hear him pleading for his life too. And it's the same thing that happened with this young man. So I would just encourage that family to just keep up the fight and don't give up, the same as I'm doing.
Well, Kenneth Chamberlain, I want to thank you very much for being with us. You have a petition online right now?
I just took the petition down, but I also have a Facebook page that says Justice for Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. that a lot of people have gone on and requested to be a part of, where I just keep people updated about the events that are taking place. Very recently, I just posted that I was going to be here, and before that, I spoke about the fact that no elected officials in White Plains have spoken to my family. And why haven't they? They haven't commented. And you would think that they would, but I guess that's another question for another day.
Well, we certainly will continue to follow this case.
Thank you.
Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., Mayo Bartlett, and Randolph McLaughlin, thank you very much for being with us. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. When we come back, we'll be joined by the